So today I'm going to be running you through the comparisons between the X-Spod Performance and just the standard Spomb. So obviously the main difference between the two is the release mechanism. The Spomb purely works off a button release, so when you press that red button on the end it'll pop open, as opposed to the X-Spod Performance, which works purely off magnets. So it comes into quarters and each quarter has 6 magnets. So once you've filled it up and you've shut it, you'll hear that click shut. You know that that's properly shut and it won't open mid-flight, as opposed to the Spombs, which sometimes do open mid-flight. So when you're filling this up with bait, if you do get bait in the top section where that clip is, if it doesn't shut properly because there's particle or crumb in there, when you cast it out, it will just pop open, and that's when bait flies everywhere in front of you, so which is not ideal. So just on that, when you're filling these up, you do have to kind of be careful and take your time. You have to kind of scoop it into this middle section, and it does slow you down a bit, because obviously you're trying to make sure that it shuts perfectly every time. Whereas these, all I do is I'll just pop 1 quarter open, use it as a scoop itself, and you just straight in, scoop it up, bait's inside. Once that's shut, you're good to go, nice and quick. You don't have to take your time, simple and fast. Moving on, the next thing is the inbuilt float on top of the X-Spod. So most lakes now say you have to have a float when you're spodding out in case you crack off. So if you was to use the Spomb, it comes standard as that. That will sink, go to the bottom. So you do have to buy these additional floats. Obviously it's additional cost, and then when you're casting it out, it makes it a bit more cumbersome, a bit harder to cast. As opposed to the X-Spod, which this top section is an inbuilt float. So obviously if you were to crack off, that'll just float on top of the water, and hopefully you should be able to retrieve it as it drifts into a margin. Going back to the button as well, if your mate wanted to play a prank on you, if you was to cast out and you hit the ground as you're casting out behind you, as soon as that touches the end, it will open, bait flies everywhere, covers your bivvy in bait, covers you in bait, not ideal. As opposed to the X-Spod, if this was to hit on its end, it doesn't open up. So if your mate tries to play a prank, it's not going to open, it'll only open on impact with the water. So as you hit the clip, you feather it down, hits the water on its side, that's when it opens, and that's when the bait goes on your spot. So if you were to fall short of the spot and not hit your clip, if that nose dives into the water, it won't open. So you're not going to be spreading bait everywhere, you're not going to have patches of bait short of your spot. As opposed to the Spomb, as soon as that button hits the water on a nose dive, it's opening up every single time. So then you start getting patches of bait everywhere, just not ideal for fishing really, to be fair. Next, and probably the best feature for me, is that these hold pure liquids. So once it's shut, all 4 of these quarters are nice and tight and compact together. You can actually hold pure liquids and sloppy spod mixes. So when that's tipped up, nothing will leak out, it won't cover your bivvy in liquids, and it is a really great edge for me personally. As opposed to these, obviously you can see there's a visible gap between the 2 halves. So as soon as you put liquids or sloppy spods in these, if you try spodding out, the liquids goes everywhere, covers you in bait, covers your bivvy in bait. They're not ideal. So yeah, so they're the main comparisons between the two. Obviously there's a lot more advantages to the X-Spod Performance, and if you are like me, you did used to have problems with these, then the X-Spod is definitely for you.